Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a story time video. This is going to be a video on my worst interview experience ever, and I feel like it is probably the world's worst interview ever. I was recently talking about this with a friend. Anyway, we were talking about our jobs and how we found the current jobs that we have. Somehow we started talking about interviews and I was like, oh my gosh, Jenny, I literally had the worst interview of my life, and I just thought I should make a video on it because I felt so strongly about it. So here it goes. So at the time, I believe I was around 21 years old, 22 years old, and I had just graduated college. I had just finished my undergrad degree. I have a bachelor's in English, so I was straight out of college and I was in that point where I needed a job. And I was so desperate and I kept looking and looking and I couldn't find anything. So anyway, there was a job fair at my college and I believe it was my last hurrah there. I believe, like, I was just contacted by student services or whatever that there was a job fair, and I went, and the first person that I saw was this fashion company, and they were looking for somebody in customer service and somebody who could you know, be the liaison between the customers and the company. So I have a big background in customer service, so I was like, you know what, I'm good for this job. So I spoke to the recruiter there and she really liked me and she recommended me to the actual company. I guess she was not directly working with them, she was just there to represent the company. I don't really know, but so whatever. She sent me an email a couple days later saying that I had an interview with this company, and this was a fashion company, and I was a little skeptical. I was like, you know what, I've worked with fashion companies before in customer service. I don't think it's that hard, and I don't think I'm fashion forward, but you know, like, I can kind of, you know, get with it. You know, I didn't think it was gonna be a big deal. So anyway, I was scheduled to go into the city because it's a fashion designer and she's located in the city, and I get there early, and I get there about 15 minutes early, and this is how it all began. So I get there early and she was annoyed, the person that I was interviewing with. She was like, why are you here so early? And I'm like, I don't know, I took a bus and I got here fast and I'm here. And it was literally right in front of Times Square. It was right in front of the New York Times building, if you're familiar with New York. So anyway, I'm there and I'm like, you know, it's cool, I'll wait. So I step aside and I'm there waiting. She finally lets me in, and she's not the fashion designer, she's, I guess, her head of marketing or her head of something. I don't really remember, this was a lot of years ago. But anyway, she starts talking to me and asking me questions, and I'm like, yeah, I just graduated. I really don't have very, you know, solid experience in the job market as of right now. I've been working while I was in college. I worked all the years that I was in college, but it wasn't really like a big girl job, I would say. It wasn't an entry level job. It was an hourly job. It wasn't salaried. Like, I didn't feel like it was a real job, even though it totally was. So she's like, okay, yeah, blah, 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 lets me talk. She was okay. She wasn't the worst person that I ever interviewed with. She's like, whatever. So I felt comfortable. Then she's like, oh, well, the designer is actually here. And I was like, okay. She's like, do you want to meet her? I'm like, well, if she's going to be my boss, might as well. And I get up and I pull out my hand to shake her hand, because that's what we do here. And she wouldn't shake my hand. So I was just like, okay. I just put my hand down, like, okay, you know, some people are like that. I'm not going to hold it against her. So we sit down and she starts asking me about myself. And I'm like, you know, my name's Catherine, la la la, my interests, my hobbies, where I went to school, what I studied, la 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 la. So she starts telling me about herself. She tells me that she was a VP for Victoria's Secret, and she's the head of I don't know how many different companies, and she decided to start her own company. Understandable. I'm sitting there like, okay, cool. So she asked me about my education. She's literally holding my resume in front of her face. I mean, she can see where I went to school, what my jobs have been like, whatever. So she's asking me actually what kind of experience I have, and I told her, I was like, well, I have several years of customer service experience, yada yada yada. So she looks at me and she tells me, she's like, you really don't have any experience. And I'm sitting there like, okay, I mean, if you feel that way, you know, what am I gonna say? And she's like, are you always complacent? Do you always agree with what everybody says? And I was like, excuse me? So she changed the subject and she's like, well, are you into fashion? And I'm like, well, I like fashion. She's like, well, what kind of designers do you wear? Let me think about that. So I'm there like, well, I don't really wear designer. She's like, well, where do you shop? And I'm like, well, I am super young. I come from, you know, a working class family in an urban neighborhood. Like, what do I wear? I wear Forever 21. I wear American Eagle. I wear H&M. I wear, you know, those kind of things, which I still, by the way, wear. So when I'm naming those stores, she's just cringing. She's just like, and I'm like, what is wrong with this lady? She's a fashion designer. She designs cashmere, which is very, very, very expensive. So she pulls out her laptop and she's like, you know, you should be, you're going to have to be wearing these kinds of clothes so that you can know what to relate to the customers, blah, blah. And I'm there like, you want me to buy a $400 sweater? Mind you, the salary that they were talking about was like non-existent. They were like, well, there's going to be an internship period, and after that we'll discuss hourly, blah, blah, blah. And this interview was just getting worse and worse, and I'm sitting there like, what is wrong with this lady? Like, she kept finding ways to gun me down or like discourage me, and that's how I felt. So I kept pushing on. I'm like, no, I can do it, you know, that's fine. I'll work with it. Like, I needed to prove myself that I wasn't scared of what, you know, what she was saying that I would need to do for this position. She caught on to my accent. I guess I have a slight, you know, Spanish accent. Spanish is a language that I speak very fluently, and it is the first language that I learned. Even though I was born in this country, my parents only spoke Spanish to me because that's the only language that they knew, and I learned English when I was in school. So I guess while I was nervous, I must have, you know, some words might have come out a little bit funny. And she's like, do you speak Spanish? And I was like, yes, I do. I'm bilingual, which I thought was a good thing in most jobs that I've ever gone on an interview for. They like that I speak Spanish as well. She's like, what language do you speak the most? And I was like, English. I speak English the most. She's like, well, do you know the national anthem? This is where it went. And I'm there like, yes, I'm American. Do you know the national anthem? She's like, can you recite it? And I look at the other lady, and she's like, and I look at her, and I'm like, what is going on right now? But in my head, I wasn't thinking about it just yet. I was just like, okay. So I recite the national anthem. All of it. Okay. Let that sink in. So after which, she tells me that she feels that I would be an okay fit for her company, but that she's not sure, that there's a lot of, that I have no experience, and that I seem very weak. I left. I gathered my things, and the other woman showed me out, and I was just like, what the fuck? Excuse my French. And in that moment, I couldn't really assimilate what had occurred, and I didn't really want to tell anybody what had happened. I just was very ashamed. I felt like I had done something wrong, that I wasn't good enough for this interview, that, you know, that I felt like I had done something completely wrong on the interview. I felt like I wasn't qualified, and I felt like I felt so stupid for even thinking that I could apply an interview for this job. And I cried. I cried so much. I was very discouraged. Because I mean, I was straight out of college, and I was very in need of a job, and I just couldn't find anything, and I was getting so desperate, and I didn't want to let my parents down because, you know, I went to school, and then you go to school to find a job, and you can't find a job, and you're just like, what the hell, man? Anyway, so I didn't want to say anything to anybody. I thought about it for a couple of days, and it just sat with me for a long time. Just that feeling of embarrassment. Just, she really made me feel like shit. She made me feel this big. She made me feel, because she was a fashion designer and she had a company, which was just starting, by the way. I don't even know if it's still around. That I was this little bug, and that because, you know, I had done the education route, that I was, you know, that I just thought that I was like this little bookworm, you know. Years later, and I'm thinking, and I just thought to myself, like, I was so stupid. I was more than qualified to have that position. I speak very good English. I had every right to apply for that position. And she was very racist. She was very mean. And all those years I thought that it was me that shouldn't even have applied. And now I look back and I'm like, no, she was just a very mean person. She took her label, she took her position, she took whatever it is that she thinks that she has in her life, and she just used it to make me feel bad so that she could feel better about herself. And on top of that, the racism was crazy. The fact that she even asked me to recite the national anthem was beyond me. Like, why would you do that to somebody, you know? Like, I would never, ever, no matter how much money I make in this world, in this life, I would never do that to somebody else. So the point of me telling you all of this is that those of you who are straight out of college and are looking for jobs, don't get discouraged. Do not let anybody make you feel inferior. You are not. You are educated. You are smart. You are so much more than these people sometimes make you feel. We are the kind of people that learn fast and adapt quickly and can juggle a lot of things because we're young and we're energized, and we're just so eager to learn, eager to work. And I feel like it's not noticed as often. It's still not as noticed as it should be. I wish that I would have stood up for myself a little bit more. I wish that I would have had the courage to tell her that she was crazy, literally, and that she wasn't worth my time. It wasn't that I wasn't worth her time. It's just that she wasn't worth my time. And even if I had been offered that position, I probably would have been miserable, because she's one of those people that preys upon the young and the weak and all that. I'm a strong believer that you get exactly what you put out into this world, and I know that she knows that she was very evil. She was evil that day. But anyway, I mean, I did find a good job, and I'm very happy where I work right now. I love the people that I work with. I've been very blessed. That was my story time. That was the worst interview of my life. I love you guys. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you in my next one. Bye.